Hey everyone, this is Eurico Costa, and I'm presenting on the topic of JSON serialization, and I would say deserialization for the CIT-261 class at BYU Idaho. For this presentation, I'm actually going to use my understanding portfolio to show what JSON deserialization really is. JSON deserialization. So JSON, first of all, it's a JavaScript object notation. It's a very lightweight way of structuring data and moving data around, and it can be a replacement for or an alternative for XML or for other formats. Because it's so lightweight, it's so easily used in very dynamic sites today, and in integration between mobile devices, and it's also a way to through the use of other technologies like Ajax and things like that to call remote services and bring a structure of data across to your device or to your computer or to the browser to be able to use it and manipulate it. JSON data serialization, it's the process of converting, actually first data serialization, what it is. It's the process of grabbing an object that it's in binary form and converting it into a stream of bytes in order to store it locally, store it on local store, to pull it to a database, to do something with it as a string. It's just an easier way of handling an object and store it somewhere. The process of deserialization, it's the opposite process. It's where you grab an object, for example, a JSON string that is correctly formatted, and then parse it and transform it into an object again that we can manipulate easily. To serialize and deserialize data, you use certain methods of the JSON JavaScript object. In this case, I would like to talk about the stringify method, which takes a value, which is the value that is going to be converted to a JSON string, and then it can take a replacer, which can be a function that does something to a value that is being stringified. So, for example, if a value, if you're expecting a number, and the value that you have in a variable, for example, that you're trying to stringify, is a string, then you would be able to provide, maybe replace that string with a 0 or with some type of information that would tell that that value was invalid. It also takes a space parameter, which is also optional as the replacer, and what it does is it can be used to insert white space into the output of the JSON string. It's basically for readability. That's what it is. So to show an example of the deserialize, of the JSON.stringify method, I would like to show the source code on this page where my example is. So if we look at the script that this code has, okay, in the code that is highlighted here, which right now it's everything, but where it says var sjson JSON.stringify, I am grabbing I am defining the attribute name, in this case first name, and then I'm adding the variable s first name, which is being called here in var s first name, which is using DOM manipulation to get the content of a field, in this case f name, and getting its value. And I do the same for the rest of the objects. What this is going to do is this is going to create a string that is correctly formatted as a JSON object. So that's what JSON Stringify does, and I'm going to show you in the example later on how this works. JSON Data Serialization is the process of doing the opposite. So we grab a string, which is a JSON, a well-formatted string, and then convert it into an object. For that, we use the JSON.parse method, which takes a text, which is the JSON string, and the reviver parameter, which is basically, it can be a function, and it just prescribes what how the original value is going to be transformed if we need to do any type of transformation to it before it's returned by the JSON.parse function. Okay, so the implementation of this, it's in the code here, where after I do the JSON string JSON.stringify, I do I create a new object, my JSON object, and I run the JSON.parse function with the JSON string that I composed earlier and validated earlier. And then after that, I will display the elements of the JSON object in a div within my HTML object. So the example that I have here that executes this code on the right, my apologies, takes it's a small form that takes a few fields like first name, last name, age, and email. Okay, and then by pressing the button deserialize, first of all, it's going to show the JSON string. As you can see here, by running the stringify method, it just transforms my data that was in those fields into a JSON string. And then it executes the JSON parse and then displays the code into the inner HTML of the div deserialized output element in the page, which is this Rico Costa 42 ejcosta@gmail.com. The code used, it's right here. It's very simple. There's not a lot to it, but it's just a very simple way, very easy way to deal with JSON, to stringify it, which is a funny word, and then to actually deserialize it and turn it into an object again, where you can manipulate it and do it everything you can. After you parse it, as it shows here in the code, you can see that I then can use my object, my JSON object, and use dot notation, dot first name, dot last name, dot age, dot email, which makes it easier to manipulate the JSON object, especially if it is a very large JSON object to deal with. That's it. It's a very straightforward example. The technology itself, it's very used, and it's very mainstream, and there's plenty of examples out there on the internet on how to use it. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.